Hello!
Hello!
Welcome to this video. Today we're going to explain to you some phonological traits.
Yes, and we are going to explain to you how our native language influences when we are talking or speaking in English.
And also, as non-native speakers of English, we tend to commit some mistakes at the time of pronunciation.
That we are going to explain to you now.
Okay, let's start. Some of the most common traits we have when we are speaking English are the accent. To start, well, we know that there are many accents around the world. Okay, the English is a language that is the most spoken around the world after Chinese, and we have a lot of accents. There are like 36, I guess, but we know that there are two that are like the more common: the British.
You're right there, laddie. Do you want some water?
And the American accent.
Who are you, and why are you ruining my retirement party?
I'll have you know I wandered off from the tour.
These accents are quite different between them because, what I can say, British, they tend to articulate more the sounds and produce more the letters. For example, the word water. In American, we know that it's water. They say like water. They pronounce like the T like an R. But in British, they like produce more the sound of the T, and they say water. If you have seen some words or you have watched some videos in which they speak in British and they produce the sounds, you're going to notice that they say water or bottle. They pronounce more the T. They articulate better this. That's why the pronunciation and the symbols that they use are very different. Also, I can mention another word that is activity. In American English, they say activity, and in British, they say activity. You notice the difference, right? I'm Salvadoran, I'm not pronouncing the words right, but they do this. But how our language influences in this? For us, that non-native speakers, we are learning English, it is like more common to adopt an accent. For some people, it is easier to produce the American accent because it's the language and the way that the teachers teach to learn. But some, like me, for example, I prefer to adopt the British accent. It is like easier. They speak slow and they speak like better the words and they articulate it better. Another trait in English. This is the sound of the S. We know that some words they start with S, and we tend to add an E before the S. For example, the word school, it is school with S, but we add an E before the S, and we say a school, or we say a study, and that is completely wrong because we are like introducing our language in the English. We are adding another letter, like saying escuela. It is completely different from English, and we say a school. That is completely wrong. But why? Because in our language we don't have that sound. Let's start with S. That is like wrong to say that in English. It is something that we have to avoid and we have to eliminate completely from our vocabulary.
To continue with the topic, now we are going to talk about other mistakes that we commit when we are learning another language. For example, for us, it's really important to mention the influence that our native language has when we are trying to learn another language. And why I am saying that? And I am saying that because sometimes our native language, as I said before, influence when we are speaking, in this case, in English. For example, one of the most common mistake that we commit when we are trying to speak in English is that we mix that language, that Spanish language with the English language. How? For example, the word first. When we are trying to pronounce that word, uh, the beginners or sometimes people that they have like advanced English, but sometimes we forget that, so we pronounce that word as we say first, and we know that correct pronunciation is first. I think that we commit that mistake because our mind is mixing the both language, the Spanish and the English, and we try to make that sound because in Spanish the letter I we pronounce like first, but the correct pronunciation is first. Also, another word is parents. Have you ever listened when the beginners say parents, parent or parent? And it is because I said before that sometimes we mix the two language and we make that type of sounds. Another mistake that we can see when we are trying to speak in English or when we are learning another language is that in English we have some sounds that for us is kind of difficult to pronounce. For example, when we have the sound that when we have the sound with th, for us is kind of difficult to pronounce because I can say that that sounds is like common in English but not in Spanish. For example, when we say with, as you know, we had to put our tongue between our teeth, so we make the sound, and that is the correct pronunciation or the correct sound that we have to use when we are saying some word that has th.
Another aspect that we are going to face when we are learning a second language is the sound of the schwa, that is words in English tend to have this vowel sound in many words. For example, in about, available, and woman. This sound is the most difficult sound because in Spanish we don't have that sound. So, for example, in the word about, we tend to say about, or in the word woman, we tend to say woman with a, and that is one mistake that we face, or a problem that we struggle with the English language. If you want to be more like a native speaker, you have to be careful with the pronunciation of as I said before in the word about. Don't say about, say about. This is the end of the video.
I hope you enjoy it and you like it.
And remember, English is a tough language, but with hard work and practice you will learn. Thanks for watching.
Bye.